We're back with our first NFL fantasy football mock draft of the 2024 NFL season. I'm super excited to dive back into things, get back into that fantasy football mode. We have training camp kicking off across the league, which means there's going to be a lot of information that comes out over the next month that's really going to shape our fantasy football drafts. So if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that thumbs up button. It does help me out a ton. Let's get into this mock draft. We have a 12-team full PPR snake draft with the 8th overall pick. All right, we have a 12-team full PPR snake draft with the 8th overall pick, so let's dive right in. I'm not going to get too crazy. I think I'm going to go with the same strategy that I went with last season, which was target a wide receiver in the first round. And taking a look at the wide receivers available that we have right now, we have A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson, and I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. All right, let's talk about A.J. Brown. He's going into his 6th year in the NFL, 3rd year with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think he still has a lot left in the tank at the age of 27 years old. Last year, he finished as a wide receiver 5. In 2022, he finished as a wide receiver 6. We saw an increase in targets for him from 2022 to 2023, 145 targets in 2022 to 158 targets in 2023. You're pretty much drafting him at his ceiling, but really anyone you're drafting in the first round, you're drafting at their ceiling with no room for error or regression. So A.J. Brown feels pretty secure for me, so I don't mind grabbing him with my first round pick. And it's back to me, and I'm going to go with a running back now. I'm taking a look. We have Saquon Barkley, which I really do like Saquon Barkley this season, but we already have A.J. Brown on the same team, so I'm going to go with Kyren Williams here. All right, let's talk about Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams coming off of a massive breakout season in 2023. He finished as the RB7, even though he did miss 5 total games. So he probably would have finished as a top 5 running back, maybe even top 3 if he didn't get injured. But he did play 70% of snaps in 11 games, and in the 5 of those games, he played north of 90% of snaps. That is a lot of snaps for a running back, but that is not surprising with Sean McVay. We've seen it with him before. He likes to run his running backs into the ground. We saw it with Todd Gurley. We even saw it with Sony Michel a little bit as well. So I don't mind grabbing Kyren Williams here with my second pick. I do have some injury concerns. You can't really predict injuries, but I'd rather be safe and potentially draft Blake Corum in the later rounds as a handcuff to Kyren Williams, just in case he does miss a little bit of time due to the volume that he plays. But I don't mind grabbing him with my second pick. It's back to me, and let's take a look at the wide receivers available. We have DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, Malik Neighbors, and I'm going to go with Michael Pittman here. All right, Michael Pittman Jr., who's currently being drafted as a wide receiver 24 in drafts. He finished as a wide receiver 13 last year in 2023. I think there's some upside getting Michael Pittman Jr., who just signed a 4-year contract with the Indianapolis Colts. He's going to be their wide receiver 1. I would like to see an uptick in touchdowns for him. He only had 4 touchdowns last year, but overall, I think it's a pretty safe pick here. Let's take a look at which running backs we have available. Looking at the running backs that we have here, we have James Cook, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, and this is a no-brainer for me. I'm going to go with James Cook. James Cook might be my favorite mid-round running back to target in PPR formats. He finished as the RB12 in 2023. He's currently being drafted as RB14. This Buffalo Bills team looks a whole lot different than they did over the last couple of years. No more Stephon Diggs. They traded him to the Houston Texans. Gabe Davis, they let him go. He's now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this team's going to go through some growing pains and really lean on James Cook, especially in the passing game, which we love in PPR formats for our running backs. So I don't mind grabbing James Cook with the 4th pick here. And it's back to me, and let's take a look at the wide receivers we have available. We have Tank Dell, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, and Tank Dell does look good, but I do have my concerns about too many mouths to feed on the Houston Texans with Stephon Diggs now on the Houston Texans. So I'm going to go with Christian Kirk here. Let's talk about Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is coming off of a letdown season in 2023, finishing as the wide receiver 47. In 2022, he finished as the wide receiver 12. Well, what happened between 2022 and 2023? Well, 2 things. 1, he did miss some time due to a core injury, and 2, the addition of Calvin Ridley. Now, Calvin Ridley is no longer with the team anymore. They only had him for last season. He is now with the Tennessee Titans. So now that opens up a lot more targets for Christian Kirk, and they didn't really go out and get another wide receiver. They did draft wide receiver Brian Thomas, who I do expect to be the wide receiver 3, and then Gabe Davis as the wide receiver 2, which I don't see Gabe Davis as too much of a threat to Christian Kirk's targets. I think we're going to see the increase in targets again and him be the main guy for the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. I don't mind grabbing Christian Kirk here. And it's back to me, and let's take a look at the running backs that we have available here. We have David Montgomery, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, Tony Pollard, Zamir White, and I'm looking at David Montgomery here. I'm going to go with the running back with the better offense, and that's David Montgomery. All right, David Montgomery, he finished as the running back 17 in 2023, and coming into 2024, I expect similar production for David Montgomery. This Detroit Lions has a great offensive line, which is going to help David Montgomery, who's not really involved in the passing game, which we don't love for PPR formats, but what I really do like about David Montgomery is that he's their go-to goal line back, and there's a high chance that he's going to fall in the end zone and get those touchdowns, maybe even 2 touchdowns in a game. So I don't mind grabbing David Montgomery with this pick. It's back to me, and I'm going to go with another wide receiver here. And taking a look, we have Jaden Reed, Chris Godwin, Hollywood Brown, and I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown here. Hollywood Brown, now in the Kansas City Chiefs, he gets an obvious upgrade at the quarterback position. I think an overall upgrade in getting into offensive scheme that's really going to benefit his skill set. And not to mention, there's a chance that we see Rashee Rice face some sort of suspension after getting in some trouble over the offseason, getting into an accident and fleeing the scene. Not sure what the NFL is going to do there, if he'll face any kind of suspension before the start of the season. So something that you're going to want to monitor throughout this training camp leading up to the start of the season. But honestly, I don't mind getting any of these Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers. And let's take a look at what positions. We need a tight end still. I'm not seeing anything that I really want to get there. We have running backs. I think let's take a look at which quarterbacks that we have available still. We have Kyler Murray still available here, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy, Tua, which I like grabbing Tua as one of my quarterbacks, late round quarterbacks. But I do like the rushing upside that Kyler Murray offers, so I'm going to go with Kyler Murray here. All right, let's talk about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray returned from an ACL injury mid-season last year. He only played 8 total games, but he finished as the quarterback 26. Now, this Arizona Cardinals team is kind of going through a rebuild, trying to figure things out. They did draft Marvin Harrison Jr., who's expected to be an elite wide receiver for the Cardinals this season. And what I really like about Kyler is that he has that rushing upside. So getting a rushing upside quarterback here in this later rounds, I don't mind grabbing a quarterback like Kyler Murray. And it's back to me, and let's take a look at which wide receivers we have available here still. We have JSN, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, and I do like JSN, but I am going to go with Jameson Williams. Detroit Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams, he finished as a wide receiver 82 in 2023, which was not a great season for the wide receiver, but he didn't really have the opportunities that I think he's going to have this year. The Detroit Lions let Josh Reynolds go, who was their wide receiver too. They didn't go out and acquire another wide receiver, which means Jameson Williams is going to be the wide receiver 2 behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's going to see a lot more opportunities this year. He's going to be on the field a whole lot more. And I think there's a good chance we see him break out this season. I don't mind grabbing him with this late round pick. Let's take a look at our team here. We need a tight end still, a defense, and 2 bench spots. So I think I'm going to go for a running back here. And taking a look at the running backs available, we have Gus Edwards, Blake Corum, Chase Brown, Jerome Ford, and I'm going to go with Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford is currently being drafted as the RB36 in drafts right now. He finished as the RB16 last year. Obviously, that had a lot to do with the absence of Nick Chubb, and I do expect Nick Chubb to be back this season, but not for the start of the season, which makes Jerome Ford a great pick in these later rounds. He gets used in the passing game. I expect him to be the RB1 for the Cleveland Browns to start off the season. I don't mind grabbing him here. And it's back to me, and let's fill that tight end position, and Pat Freiermuth is here, and that's who I'm going to go with. All right, let's talk about Pat Freiermuth. He finished as the tight end 30 in 2023, and honestly, this Pittsburgh Steelers offense looks a whole lot different than it has the last couple of years. They've dealt with terrible quarterback play, and now they finally get a capable quarterback in Russell Wilson. Yes, I said it, a capable quarterback in Russell Wilson. I promise you this is going to be an upgrade for this offense, and they made some other changes. No more Deontay Johnson. He is over on the Carolina Panthers. Now George Pickens is the wide receiver 1. They brought in Van Jefferson, who's listed on the depth chart as the wide receiver 2. They did go out and draft a rookie wide receiver who's expected to be pretty good too as well, who I have some interest in those later rounds, Roman Wilson. but I do expect Pat Freiermuth to be someone that Russell Wilson leans on, and I think it's going to benefit this team as a whole. I don't mind drafting Pat Freiermuth as my tight end in these later rounds. And with our last bench spot, let's go with Jermaine Burton. All right, let's talk about Jermaine Burton real quick. He was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in the 3rd round of the 2024 NFL Draft. And over this past offseason, the Bengals have parted ways with Tyler Boyd, someone who played a significant amount of snaps for the team. He was playing north of 80% of snaps most games, and someone that the Bengals really leaned on whenever Jamar Chase and T. Higgins were either double teamed or dealing with some injuries. So I do think Jermaine Burton can benefit in this offense, and someone that I don't mind taking a chance on in these later rounds. And with our last pick, we need to pick a defense, and taking a look at the defenses that we have available, the New York Jets are here, and I'm just going to go with the Jets. And that's going to do it for us today. Let me know what you think about the team we just drafted in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Hit that thumbs up button if you found this video helpful. Until next time, line them up.